Welcome back to the Rude Dude Podcast, the show that puts some pep in your step, takes some weight off your plate, and reminds you that haters are going to hate, but you are loved. We are your favorite hosts and recovering alcoholics, Cameron the Cree Davis and Henny Lokes the Lobster. Here with my buddy, my pal, my main guy, the Shrimp Man Cree. How are you there?
La. You know what, man? We're gonna go back to old familiar times. I'm doing okay today, brother. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a little fucking tired today, bro. Graham's been giving us the business in the evening hours, and then on top of him waking up at multiple times, I seem to be popping up at like 4 a.m. Precisely 1 hour before I have to wake up, and I'm trying to solve all the world's issues.
Oh, that is the worst.
It is a fucking nightmare, dude. It's happened like 4 nights in a row. So my left eye is literally twitching, dude. But I'm doing good, dude. Aside from that, I'm excited to be on the pod, man. I always love Podcast Thursday. I'm glad I got here on time. How are you doing, bro?
My man does not like his sleep fucked with.
I do not.
I'm okay. My job's kind of kicking me in the ass, but I'm figuring it out. But also, we got our duplex rented, the downstairs unit today officially. So it's been empty for a year. So I'm super fucking excited to have that weight off my back and
Good.
have it producing income again.
Yeah, dude, that's always like the one thing that's like always held me back from like, because we talked about like wanting to rent this house out, and I'm just like, dude, like what happens if I don't have tenants and I got to pay for like fucking like 2 other mortgages and shit, and it just terrifies the shit out of me, and then I let the fear take over, and now I'm gonna sell the house because I just can't do it.
Yeah, it's a grind. Well, we have a very special guest today. A friend of mine, a great friend of mine, one of the first people that I met in West Virginia. I say that a lot, but there's about five of them that were the first few people I met. Jake, our friend, called Jake, and we will rake mentioned him, and we were like, "Hey, that's a great point. We should get him on." He is a he is a great new father, son, brother. He's worked to get hundreds, if not thousands, of people into treatment, and he's just an all-around chill dude. My buddy Joey Ferguson, welcome.
Thanks for having me, guys.
How
What's
you
up?
Happy to
doing?
be here.
How you doing today, brother?
I'm good. My eye isn't twitching. Per your
Okay.
intro.
Are you
I
getting your
have
sleep?
a little baby, and I was out of town for work last week, so I was in a hotel. It was like the first time in 16 months I had like been away
Sleep
from,
freedom.
and it was cool. I mean, 2 days I was ready to come home, but I was there for like 3 nights, like almost four full days.
Yeah.
But I got back, and then Genesee, my wife, flew to Providence, Rhode Island, to be with her family. So I didn't have anything going on in my house. So I went to bed at 10 p.m. one night and slept till 8 a.m. And then my eyes stopped
Mm.
twitching.
Yep.
Like you need like 10 hours of sleep, and then you'll be good.
Dude, I'll tell you what, man. Like, that's 2 hours later than I'm up, brother. I fall asleep literally at like 8:30 around here,
Oh,
dude. Like I quite literally cannot stay up past like 8:45.
I'm a
I'm
night
up.
owl.
I'm up later than him with the 3 hour time difference every
Yeah.
night.
I gotta get 8 hours, dude. I gotta get it, man. And I'm not getting it the last few days, and it's driving me fucking nuts, dude.
Henry, are you still watching Warriors games?
No, dude, not really.
Back when
Especially
they were
this.
good, I know that we
Your
were,
ass.
you'd stay up late and watch them all the time.
Dude, because they always start at 10. It's 7 p.m. Western Pacific,
Mm.
and they start at 10 and they go to 12:30, 1 o'clock. And if it's like a good game or a close game, then when it's over at 1 or 12:45, I'm all hyped
You're
up on
wired.
adrenaline and
Yeah.
pissed or happy or whatever, and then I just can't go to. It's like I just don't even try, dude. The 10
Yeah.
p.m.s, I can't do it.
Good for you.
Dude, I gotta say, before we get into like right into the episode, you get raw dogged being a West Coast fucking fan living on the East Coast. That's diabolical, bro. Like your game starts at 10 o'clock. Like what the
Yeah.
fuck? And then it makes sense for the ESPN East Coast bias because they don't watch the fucking games. Who's staying
Mm-hmm.
up to watch fucking Kings games or anything like that? Like nobody.
Well, an 8:15, like Sunday night football doesn't start till 8:15,
Oh
so it's
my
over like
god.
midnight.
Yeah, we're living the dream over here, dude. We get games at 10 and 1, and the game starts at 5. It's awesome.
The one thing that I'll say that I love that the game starts at 1 on Sundays, because Sunday morning I usually go to the gym. And I go to the gym so that I don't feel like a piece of shit for sitting and watching football all day. But you have like time to do errands or clean the house or whatever before you be a piece of shit for the rest of the day.
I feel it.
Going to the gym definitely helps with feeling like a
Yeah.
piece of shit for sure.
Well, tell the people a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what you do and all that.
Cool. I am from Wayne, West Virginia. It is a town that Henry has been to, but
Right.
it is a population of about 1,000 people, so it's a really small place. When I was growing up there, it was a heavy football town, which was a big part of my life, big part of my story. I was really dedicated to that.
And if you think, God damn, this guy looks handsome, he must have been the fucking all-star quarterback, you would be fucking correct.
That was all right.
You do. He does look like a fucking quarterback, dude. You're a quarterback.
Listen, he can catch a ball at the fence in softball and rocket that thing to home plate. He's got a rocket, bud.
He looks like it, dude.
Yeah, I like defense more though. I was less pressure, and I just got to go out there and
crack people,
freestyle. Plus, I really understood how defense worked by being a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Being a quarterback, kind of understood the whole game, but defense is where I really love to play.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, but Wayne was also a town that if you oh wow, I grew up surrounded by Oxycontin, as a kid. I saw pain pills before I saw marijuana. It's a pretty heavy substance use area with alcohol. It's like you're either drinking or you're going to church there. And I grew up at a time where it's just I graduated in 2009, so that was right in the boom of Oxycontin, and people were going to Florida, with fake MRIs, fake X-rays, and coming back, and they would take busloads of church buses down there. All this information came out later in my recovery about, okay, I really did come from the epicenter of pills, Appalachia, West Virginia. So it was just
part of that
everywhere down there.
Because Mylan is here.
No, it had a lot to do with the pharmaceutical. I think it was 7 years before Oxycontin was released. Med school started changing their curriculum to educate future doctors that Americans were underprescribed for pain. There was a lot of blue collar work in West Virginia throughout its history, a lot of backbreaking work, a lot of injuries. And that was an area that was, doctors just coming out of school, doing what they were trained to do. A lot of them, I don't feel like they had malice in their heart. I feel like they were just doing what, they spent 8 years in school. They had drug reps in their face all the time. It was a very smart business move by the people that made Oxycontin. But also doctors were kind of victims as well, because they were, educated that they need to prescribe this stuff. And then when they started doing it, people started getting hooked. And then now there's a whole generation of people that don't have parents down there, grandparents, raising little kids and stuff. But I feel like it's getting better.
We talked about this recently. We were talking about how Rockefeller, when he found out he could make medications, petroleum-based medications, he paid a lot of money into schools and changed the curriculum to where it's all about prescribing medicine versus treating treating the disease itself and making people healthy. So I'm getting my tinfoil hat on here again.
Well, dude, it's I love that we have this West Virginia connection, dude. Coming from California, just I've always heard about Appalachia and that's where the pills are, but hearing these firsthand stories, dude, it's just so fucking sad how one section of the country can just get totally fucked with that. You know what I mean? It's like, oh hey, we're just gonna stroke a shit ton of Oxycontins right here, and like you said, it affected a whole generation of people, lives destroyed because of it. And it's just so fucking sad. I know that's not a question or anything, but it's crazy to hear, dude. It almost doesn't feel real, dude.
Well, there was this statistic, Joey. I don't know if you remember, but it was in California, there was prescribed 10 pills for every person there, and in West Virginia, it was like 500 for every one
It's a
person.
ridiculous
That's out
amount.
of control,
It's
bro.
like absurd.
I don't know the numbers, so I don't want to say it, but like it was like probably hundreds per person, especially in like an area of like Mingo County, which I'm from Wayne County and we touch Mingo County. There was a pharmacy in Kermit, West Virginia, which is just right across the Wayne County border in Mingo County, where that statistic was like the highest. I mean, it was like a crazy amount.
That's insane.
So it's like, oh, no wonder it was like sixth grade seeing kids crushing up pills. Like, you know, like football was like the one thing that grounded me. You know, I had tried pain pills like as early as like ninth grade, but like I had a future with football, so like I was focused on that. But you know, when football ended, that's when my life got really bad. I had a bad injury my senior year of high school that like left me with, you know, I had a fracture in my vertebrae, two of them actually, and the neuro surgeon was like, you know, you can't play football, dude. You're gonna like if you continue to play, like you have your disc can slip out and your back could you could paralyze yourself. So it was like, man, you know, looking back on it now, like with 13 years clean, like I have a totally different perspective. But like that was truly devastating to me, like mentally and physically too. There were times where I couldn't even, you know, put on my own socks. Like I had that injury for a long time before I actually went and got looked at. I just continued to play through it, which was very dangerous.
Yeah.
And was that part of that? You think the result of like this is Wayne County and football is everything, like a like you see about Texas in the movies?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It was like I felt like a pussy, you know, for like being hurt. You know, it's like there was nobody that ever said that. It was just like an unspoken, you know, expectation that like, you know, tie your shoes a little tighter and get back out there. I mean, which is
Rub some dirt on it.
part of which, you know, that is great. It makes me who I am today. And like as I've been out in the bigger world in Morgantown and traveled around, you know, all around the country and, you know, overseas too, like it's a really unique place to grow up, but it's also a good place to get away from and like, you know, understand that uniqueness and the good things and the bad things.
Dude, I think here's a question. Henry and I have actually talked about this, like the positives, because we both played sports, played high school sports and things like that. And it sounds like you kind of have the same type of view on this, that, dude, that actually benefited you in the real world, right? Like
Definitely.
pushing through, playing those team-based sports, you know what I mean? Like, hey, I've been through this pain, I powered through that, dude. And now, dude, it's like you carry that with you your whole life. Like I
Yeah.
still find myself like I'm competitive as fuck at work, bro.
Mhm.
Like with like colleagues and shit. Like I have to be better than my colleagues. Like and there's no other explanation except like it's just been inherently drilled into my mind from playing sports.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. You know, my buddy, he's a sponsee of mine too, and not like he owns a Geico office, and they love hiring athletes.
Yeah.
My current
Yeah.
my current job spoke about that they love that I, you know, had a sports background. So like I'm in a sales role, so I'm competitive and you know, want to figure stuff out. And like, you know, I'm thinking laying in bed thinking how I could have done something better. You know, just like I did when I was playing sports and lost the game.
Yep.
You know, carrying that into recovery too.
Yep.
Yeah. That's one we talk about a lot, like who's on your team. The two biggest things I remember, like my basketball coaches in high school were like, when your teammate falls down, you pick them up off the floor. And when somebody comes out of the game, everybody stands up and gives them a high five. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like you're just always supporting your team. And I think that transfers over to so many things, and especially recovery. Like Cameron and I talk about like who's got your back, who's picking you up off the floor, and
Mhm.
who's watering the tree instead of just picking the fruit.
Well, it's like those old cliche things. The only thing you can control is your actions and your attitude. Like
Yeah.
I think actions happen for me before attitude. You know, I like to get because I might have a bad attitude, then I work out or do something, you know, clean the house or do something positive for myself, and then my attitude changes. I can't just like I can't control my attitude sometimes. You know, I just have to take action first, and then like it usually
Act your
evens
way
out.
into better thinking.
And if not, I go to bed, and the next day, like you know, if I have a bad day, like I just go to bed, and then I wake up, and I'm like, okay, it's going to be a better day. Usually, that's how I feel.
Nice. I like that.
So let's go back a little bit for a second. You said injury with football and you got prescribed pain medication, that's kind of how your addiction started?
No, I actually did not get prescribed pain medication for that, but it was so easily
Mm,
available to me that I self-medicated with that.
mm.
You know, everybody's grandma had a prescription. Everybody knew somebody that had some. I mean, it was just so easy to get.
Now, do you think it started more as wanting to get high or more as just like I'm in pain and this is what you use for pain and it's available?
That's a good
It
question.
was definitely not with the intention of like at first anyway. Like I'm getting, I'm gonna get high. It was just like I need to feel better.
Mhm.
And it was as simple as that. I'll feel better at school. I'll be more relaxed. Like it was a 50-50. Like I knew I felt better when like physically when I took it, but I also like mentally I was just like I'm chill, I'm good. I'm not worried about the sadness of, I was gonna play college football and that's what everybody, knew me as I was gonna go do that, and then just kind of just was okay when I was taking that.
How old were you when you first started taking those? I'm
I
curious.
mean, I probably did like a few lower tabs my freshman year, and then my sophomore year, I was really focused on football. We actually won a state championship in West Virginia.
Nice.
Then my junior year, it was like partying a little bit, but my senior year when football ended, like when football ended to when I went to college at WVU, that's when things got pretty bad.
Okay. Okay. Makes sense.
What was there like a turning point when it was like I'm just using this to help me feel a little better, and then when you became like physically dependent, was there something you noticed like a change?
I had no education. Nobody did where I was from about the disease of addiction, about withdrawals. Like the first time I got withdrawals, I was like, "Damn, I'm gonna shit myself." Like I'm
Well,
achy, and
because
like
it was quote unquote non-addictive,
it was a
right?
complete like surprise. I had no idea what to call it. I thought I was just sick, and
Uh-huh.
probably for the first few times of doing that, till I got around more people that had a little bit more experience with it, and then I got the term dope sick withdrawals, and
Mhm.
started using more, and that's when I knew that it was coming when I was gonna run out.
Yeah, dude. I think it's so interesting with those, especially with those substances that revolve around like constant intoxication, like opiates and alcohol.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, like Hen can relate to this, right? Like, dude, like how many times did you find yourself running to the liquor store just to avoid that exact feeling, right? Like I'm not shaken today, buddy. You know what I mean? Or I'm not gonna feel like this today. And like when you finally reach that plateau, I know for me, it was really eye opening, dude. Like I was like, wait, I'm having fucking tremors from my drinking.
Mhm.
And the funny thing was like I was concerned about it for like 1 minute and then I just kept drinking. But like, it's so weird when you find out like, oh, I'm on another level now.
I'm physically dependent on
Yeah,
this
yeah.
substance.
I am now a slave.
Mhm.
Straight up not having a good time. So, what was the turning point for you when you realized it was a problem and you decided you might need to do something about it?
Man, there's so many little ones.
Well, I remember, isn't there a story about like Africa when you went to Africa or something?
Yeah, so that was something I decided to do in the middle of my addiction was, I was in school at WVU. I kept like going through a semester and then withdrawing at the last possible minute. And, my parents are 3.5 hours away, and I was convincing them, like everything's good. And then I have like 30 withdrawals on my transcript. So I just couldn't get it together with school, which it was really hard for me. And it's hard when you're, getting high full time and not going to class to like pass a class. Um, but yeah, I went and did a study abroad. So I like found this program called Amazaji, and it was like a service learning abroad in Tanzania, Africa. I always wanted to go to Africa, particularly like East Africa. Uh, and I did everything I had to do. I had to write essays, I had to fundraise, and I was very resourceful in getting the funds that I needed to get that. Meanwhile, like I was, full blown, Oxycontin dependent. Like that trip like I did like probably 280s before I got on the flight with my group of peers. Like there was like 2 kids from Pittsburgh, there were a couple from Duke, uh, Berkeley, California. Like we all met up at the JFK airport in New York. Like I flew out of Pittsburgh. So like I did like my last 80 before I got on the plane to go to JFK. So I flew to JFK, like feeling good. I get to JFK. We had a 10-hour layover, so we left the airport.
Oh no.
That's when we met all the people. We all met up, and like I knew what was coming for me. I was gonna get really, really sick.
At this
And
moment, he realized
it
he
was
fucked
yeah,
up.
for sure. But all I could think is like, man, I should have just brought some with me. They didn't even check my bag. Like I had the money to bring some, but I didn't. I just knew that I was gonna go for it. Walked around Central Park all day. It was like 97 degrees. It was like early July when we went. And then by the time I got on that plane that night to fly to Dubai, I was like in bad shape. And I was stuffed in the middle of the plane beside these 2 big guys.
Mm.
Neither one of them
That's
spoke
terrible
English.
sober.
I was wedged. It was one of the worst parts of detoxes that I've ever had was on that plane flying to Dubai.
Yeah.
Was that the end, or did you probably used more when you came back?
So that trip I got to Dubai, I was sick as hell. Like it was 110 degrees there. And you know, when you're withdrawing, like can't eat anything, like just sick as hell. And of course I just played it off. Like I was like, I got, traveling sickness, which happens. You're in multiple time zones, different food, water, stuff like, and it's pretty common to get sick. So flew from Dubai into Entebbe, Uganda, even worse there. So get this, when I flew into Entebbe, Uganda, we got on a bus and drove to Kampala, Uganda. And when we were pulling in this hostel, and like it was a nice place, like it was an outdoor hostel where there's like 7 different like barracks where there's like our group could stay, like there was 8 or 10 of us that could stay in a building, and it's like outdoor with like a big kitchen in the middle. Country Roads, John Denver was playing when I pulled into this place, like sick. I mean, I'm like 48 hours in at this point, and Country Roads is playing. So that was like I started having these spiritual things happen on that trip. Like I didn't go to rehab. I didn't get clean till like a year later, but I realized a lot of stuff on that trip because like I was sick. We got in, we were doing service work, like in places where people didn't have much. I really tapped in with the community. And I was crazy, I like using 20-year-old, like I had been full blown using for like a year and a half. Like I was a lunatic. So I would go off and do stuff that with like people in town that like we weren't supposed to do. Like I was experiencing this rural village in Tanzania. Like I had kind of anybody has a death wish that's like using like that. So I was filling that void with adventure while I was there. So I have tons of stories.
Yeah, I'll get on the back of
into
your
them tonight.
moped with strange man with a machete.
I
Let's go.
absolutely did that. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Dude, what I was hoping you were gonna tell me was like that you drank some like Ugandan ayahuasca and like got lost and like was riding giraffes and shit. But I mean, it's still super dope that you were doing like radical stuff.
Yeah.
Like I was fiending so hard that I licked the toad and got lost.
Oh man, there was all kinds of stuff. Like we went to a hospital and I was like, probably a week, and there were people there with just all these terrible physical burns and injuries, and I was looking through the medicine. I was going to snag whatever I could. I'm serious. Like and I felt guilty about that, but I was going to do it. And that was another one of those like, spiritual things like, damn, we're blessed to be where we are.
Yeah.
So how you get back to the States, what or how did made you move towards and get into recovery?
I mean, man, I didn't have like culture shock really going there, but when I came back, that's when I had it. Like I couldn't go in Walmart. Like just the abundance of things we have here freaked me out. And at this point I was also smoking so much weed. Like I was just on a different planet. Drinking, it's anything I could get my hands on. My addiction had evolved to anything I could find. So it was a really blurry year. Like I dropped out of school completely after that trip. And just sleeping on friends' couches. Like my family, were at that point they were like, something's going on with this kid. And I told them at one point. So that whole year was just me running, sleeping on friends' couches. And I had friends that started dealing and stuff. So I'd go stay at their houses. The cops would come and I'd freaking run out the back door and just get down the street. Like, luckily, I've never been arrested or caught with anything. But that year was a blessing that I didn't die and that I didn't get arrested.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lucky stuff that happened. But it was my 21st birthday. I got, I was just I was living in Huntington, West Virginia at the time. I was completely messed up. And my brother had said something to me that really stuck. He's called me a junkie. He was like, bro, you're a junkie, man. And it stuck. I was like, man, it wasn't the nicest way to address somebody, but like, he was like telling me like, dude, you got a fucking problem,
Yeah. And it hits you because you like never really kind of thought about it that deeply before. You're like,
Yeah,
damn,
I
my own
was just
brother.
going, I was just beatboxing
Yeah.
around, going, getting in whoever's car I could. It was just the stupidest, most immature. That's how I look back on it. It was just crazy, immature stuff. Ways and means to get more. And then it was like a month later that I was like, I'm fucking done. And asked my mom to find a place for me to go to because I couldn't stop on my own. Like I knew that. Like I knew I could not stop. And I didn't know what being clean meant. I thought being clean was like at that time, still, I thought being clean was just stopping the pills and just let's just do cocaine. I'm clean off the stuff that really knocked me down. I'll just do coke. I'll just smoke weed. I'll just drink. So I just substituted because I thought my favorite drug I wasn't doing. So I was like clean. But when I went to rehab, that's when I really got the first time I got educated about this condition that I had, come into, lived into.
Yeah, dude, I think you're highlighting a really good point and something that actually really kind of fries my ass. We're gonna grind gears here for a second. I actually have like a huge problem with people that actually do that and then claim to be sober. Be like, I'm sober, but I smoke weed, or I like my drug of choice is crack cocaine, but I drink alcohol. Be like, what do you mean you're sober? You're not fucking sober, dude. You're just using another drug to cope with life. You're doing the same exact thing. Like yeah, the other drug might have destroyed your life and crack hasn't destroyed your life yet, but you're just using another substance. And so that has nothing to do with anything, and it's like I said, not another question, but that's kind of my role on this show. I just kind of pop in here and I just kind of go and I say shit like this because some certain things kind of piss me off.
I believe that like complete, and it's a path that I chose, and it was a path that I'm glad that I'm still on, is like complete sobriety.
Yeah.
It was the quickest way for me to grow the fuck up, learn about life, get a spiritual connection, and be a good human being.
Hell yeah.
Like looking back on it now, and there's a lot of ways. Like I've been in the field too, like the addiction treatment field, and I'm out now, thank God. Like I was there for a long time and getting professionally educated, and over the years I watched the language change about it, and there's a lot of ways to live better, we'll put it that way. But I love that my path at that time when I went to treatment was a very heavy don't use no matter what. It was like stick to it, because the first year was rough. I mean, shit, but it gets better and better.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think being around as long as we have, I would say that complete abstinence has the most success for people, because a lot of people who just drink or just smoke weed or whatever, we've seen it time and time again, eventually they want something else. They want their drug of choice. They want something a little better, something a little stronger. Very rarely, or sometimes it works for some people, but even then we talk about too, like it doesn't come without its problems. Like you stop doing meth, which is great, but you drink and you fight with your boyfriend every single weekend. So like, what is the quality of life that you have? You know what I mean? So
yeah, dude. And it's like the California sober thing out here, right? Like there's a lot of people that do the California sober thing where they quit drinking and they smoke weed. And like, dude, like people have talked to me about that. Like, hey, well, why don't you just smoke weed? Well, dude, Henry just hit it right on the head. The reason I don't do that is because I know for a fact that if I was to smoke weed, not only would I get paranoid as fuck and be losing my mind, but then second off, I would want to drink immediately.
Boy, if I shotgunned a beer right now, I would feel fantastic.
Like, you know what goes really good with weed? Pabst Blue Ribbon and New Amsterdam vodka. So somebody get me to the store now.
Right.
And that's just a fact, right? But you only learn that in like years of recovery, right? Like I have that understanding of who I am now. Like that's not an option for me. And so I'll never be one to advocate that type of behavior, basically.
Yeah, it's like it's funny because it's hard and it's easy at the same time. Recovery is just
the
this
easiest
thing, like,
hardest thing in the world, dude.
looking back on, like, I could look at myself as 2 years clean. You know, I'm 23 at 2 years clean, right? So I was also young. So like there's a combination of that and like not knowing how to live life and like being on my own for the first time. But like I was fucking crazy with 2 years clean. I was clean. I was better. I was definitely better than I was at 1 year clean. You know, so it's like I feel like the past couple of years when I've like just recently like, oh, okay, I can live life, you know.
Yeah.
Tough relationships, crazy pain in that. Like, I mean, shit, sometimes relationships hurt worse and you know than detox, you know. It's like you just go through just like whatever you cling to, right? It could be anything, could be a job, which, you know, I experienced that recently too. Like you hold on to something so tight and it just fucks you up, you know?
Yeah, dude.
Dude, I've got to drop the Randall Brown quote that I don't think I've ever dropped on here.
Oh, I'm so excited.
He goes, only one thing more powerful than your drug of choice, gentlemen. Pussy.
That sounds like a Randall Brown quote.
Dude, and it's so true. And because Randall and I have this in common, he said, I'm an emotional relapser. You hurt my feelings, I'm going to go get high. And I said, damn, Randall, me too, dude. Fucking hurt my feelings. I'm going to go wash them away with some liquor, you know?
Yep.
But yeah, those relationships are tough. But Joey is one of the anomalies who got clean at 21 and never looked back. No relapses and been clean. What, like 9 years now?
It's 13 now.
Jeez.
Yeah. It's crazy, man.
Congratulations.
September 12th, 2011.
Hell yeah, dude.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That's massive.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and it's like it's not I watch, right? Like I observe people, right? Being in recovery, it's like you're always looking. Like I have not seen a single person life get better going to whether it's like not going back to like shooting or snorting, whether it's just like casually smoking or drinking, like it's like I'm not attracted to the life that people that I know that have done that. Like, so why would I? You know, now that I got all these years behind me too, it's like, what if I tried it and could do it, but then damn, I'm throwing away like part of my 13-year-old identity of being this clean person, and like, why I'm not doing it.
Yeah, that's what we like to call the old devil gipper, dude. What if I could go back and do it and control it, right? Like, see, at least Joey's honest and admits that he has those thoughts, unlike my stupid ass cousin Matthew, who says he doesn't have those. Motherfucker.
We mentioned Matthew not saying he never has thoughts about once every 2 or 3 episodes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's got like 10 years. He got like 10 years sober. And I was like, yeah, talking with him one day. And I was like, yeah, man, you know, like the random intrusive thoughts that come up, like, hey, I should go get a beer or the river. This would be nice. Be like, and then I come back to reality and go, yeah, that's not going to happen. And he goes, yeah, man, I just don't have those thoughts ever. And I'm like, dude, I fucking don't believe you, brother. I was like, you're lying to me, man. And like, he still stands his ground, and I'm going to roast him on this podcast until he comes clean.
It's a superpower, you know.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it's few and far between that those thoughts come, but they do, and I appreciate you being honest about it.
Yeah, of course. You know, like going back to like what Henry said, like we are feelers, right? Like I think that this is true for everybody. We're super fucking sensitive people in recovery. Like it can be something so small. We don't know when it's coming. Like something big could happen and we're fine. but it could be something so small that just fucking knocks us sideways for days.
That's so true.
You know, it's the strangest thing, like with just being aware of that when it happens and just understanding that I'm in that place, right? Like just I'm in that spot that I don't like to be in. I don't know when I'm going to get out of it, but I will get out of it.
That's a good fucking point, dude.
Yeah, it kind of made me think about Michelle. We had my friend Michelle on here, and she was with my buddy JC, who unfortunately we lost to addiction. And she was like, "Yeah, addicts have that special sparkle. There's something, we were all talking about. There's something about people, and it's we love harder. I think like you just touched on it. We're super emotional,
Mm-hmm.
but we're very like compassionate, and I feel like we do everything extra, and like you're saying, we feel extra, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why previously we were trying to drown those feelings because like we do everything at a 12, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And dude, I think it's a great point too, like talking about um how like the biggest thing in the world could be happening and we could be like, oh yeah, that's no big deal. And I think that's kind of like a indicative of like our trauma that we experienced while in active addiction. Like, yeah, be like, oh hey, the whole house is on fire. Be like, oh dude, this is fine, dude. This is okay.
Yeah.
But then like literally an asshole walks across the crosswalk and throws gang signs at me and like will fuck me up for weeks because I'm fucking sitting here thinking about killing the fucking person. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like I'm sitting like spazzing out.
Yeah.
Like it's like what where are my priorities at? You know what I
It
mean?
doesn't make sense, right? Like it's
Or like, yeah, like a random intrusive thought. I'll just be sitting there and then I'll be spiraling on it for weeks and it's no big deal at all. But for me, it is in my addict brain.
Well, so what do you think, Joey? What do you think makes up the secret sauce? I know you mentioned. I wanted to go back through your story, but earlier you mentioned like, oh, I'm feeling a little twisted. I go to the gym, and maybe that's part of my collage that I picked up from you. But like, what's a lot some of the tools you use and some of the things that you think have helped you stay clean?
secret sauce, man, is it really the longer I stay clean is like just I don't have to use today, you know, like so when those bad days come, like it's just all I gotta do is just like not use today. And then like because like anytime I have a terrible day, the next day it's way better. Just because I don't think my our bodies are meant to stay in that state, especially if you've been in recovery. We're very resilient. Like it's a huge part of my recovery. Just that word alone is resilience. You know, so resiliency like bouncing back and like constantly elevating myself, like educating, like reading, working out. Like, I did yoga for a couple years. I haven't done yoga in a long time. I did some serious like vipassana meditation years ago in my recovery. I haven't really done that anymore. I haven't done that recently. So like this past year, I haven't really used all the tools. I've applied them in my life as being a dad, a husband, like a man, like doing what I'm supposed to do for my family, taking on responsibilities or what my idea of like what the head of the household's supposed to do. Um, so just really living that person that I want to be. But here recently, I've really been getting back to the basics of working out, like because like when you work out, you get that flush of endorphins, and I might be looking at something a certain way. I have weird fears now with this new job, this career change, and working out is really when I'm in a negative spot, it flip flops it, and then it becomes positive, and I'm able to be myself again. It's those moments that I can freeze and forget who I am and what I'm doing, and just be filled with fear. So don't let the fear like it's there, it's gonna be there, but don't let the fear like run the show. Is a huge thing. That's a secret sauce thing.
Yeah, and I think at this point, it's I didn't even so much mean like staying clean because I feel like that's I don't want to say the easy part, but kind of the easy part now. But the other part of recovery is just like being centered, being living a happy life, like figuring out what's bothering you and how you can fix it, and kind of,
Hmm.
like you said, being a good dad, being a good husband, and being a good partner. And I have those moments too. Like I'll tell Kristen, I'll be like, I have to go to the gym.
Hmm.
I'm pissed. I'm having a bad day. I don't feel whatever. I have to go to the gym, and I almost always feel better, man. It's like I think for me too, and I've said this, is I'm not very good at meditating, but being at the gym with my headphones on, working out is the closest thing to meditation because that's all I have. Like
Mhm.
I got my music, I'm doing my workout, and I'm not thinking about anything else. Like I'm in the zone. That's like the closest thing I have. So that's part of, for me, a big part of like what centers me, what calms me down, and like so it's like my medicine.
It's while you're working out, you're breathing, your heart rate's getting up, you're breathing deep, you're expanding. Like, meditation is all about breathing. Yoga is all about breathing. We all, that's like our life force is breathing in and breathing out. So it's like just connecting the breath.
Yeah, dude. There is something. I'll just piggyback off it. There is something to that, like the stress relief that exercise brings, and especially for people like us in recovery. Like yesterday, I was real unnerved, and so I actually was like, you know what, dude, I'm just gonna shred my legs, and so I did. I did leg day, dude. And what do you know, dude? 30 minutes after that fucking workout, like I went a little extra hard than I normally would, harder than I normally would, and bro, I felt fucking amazing. I wasn't worried about anything afterwards. You know what I mean? Like I
Hmm.
literally I came home, I had a good time with my family and my kids, and was like, oh, this is why I do this, right?
Hmm.
And it almost becomes like a mandatory staple now. Like if I don't do it, if I'm not moving a little bit, like I start feeling real edgy now.
Hmm.
And so I gotta jump rope now. So I'm in the kitchen some days jump roping because I'm that fucking crazy. I gotta get after it somehow.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you started working in recovery. Was Jacob's Ladder your first like job in recovery?
Yeah. So we can
And let's
Jacob's Ladder days.
let's give the people the story of picking me up from the hospital.
Favorite job I ever had for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I met Dr. B, and he's like, I'm starting to rehab. I'm like, you just want me to be me? I'd been working in construction. I was like looking to go to the Air Force as an
Fucking
officer because I'd
anything.
graduated college
Yeah.
in my recovery. I'm like, I need to go live life, and I ain't doing it in Morgantown ripping shingles off the roofs. So anyway, I'll fast forward. We started Jacob's Ladder. Everything's going great. And when did you come? How late into it was it? Like 9 months we were open.
Yeah, I mean, the documentary came out while I was there. So, like, I came at
So
the
we
end of
were
Jake
open a year.
Burgess. I
We'd probably
came
been
right
open a
when
year.
Jake Burgess
Okay.
graduated.
Yeah. So like I kind of did a lot. Like I talked to people over the phones. I worked as a tech. Jacob's Ladder was my
We're
baby.
building
I
this
loved
plane while we're flying it.
and it was awesome. And there was this kid from California that was coming in town. Like I talked to his dad a couple times, um, and somehow he ended up in bad shape and went to one of the hospital detoxes that I know of. And I was, in Morgantown, and uh, I was asked, "Can you pick this guy up?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. I'd love to. I love this. This was the best part of the job." So I pull up to Chestnut Ridge, and I think at the time I had a 2001 Honda CRV with the sound system in
Yeah.
it. It was my baby.
Yeah.
And out comes this guy just scowling, just so fucking mad, so mad. Gets in the car, and I was just like, at the time, like I think it was 3 or 4 years clean. I'm like, "Hey man, how are you?" He's like, "Good." He's like, I'm like, "Where are you from?" Just small talk. California. What's the weather like there? Dude, everybody fucking thinks it's just beaches and sunshine. We have mountains, we have forests, we have all different types of things there. I was just asking how the weather was, man. I was like, damn, it's gonna be a long ride. So we had like
Dude.
an hour and a half drive to the treatment facility from where I picked him up.
Yeah, and my perception, the other side, I just came out of detox. I'm feeling like shit. I'm in West fucking Virginia. I don't even know where I am on a map. I couldn't even point it out. It's cold. And this guy comes in, "Hey, buddy, how's it going?" I'm like, "Oh, fucking Christ, dude. This is
Yeah.
the Lost Boys over here smiling and having a great time. And I'm just hating life." I'm like, "Oh, what is this?"
Dude, I was in such a good spot in my life. Not that I'm not now, but just I was in such a good spot then too.
But then also on the other side of it, there's that little tinge of like, man, I feel like it would be cool to be like as happy as this guy, you know?
Instant impression.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, I always like everyone always goes, "Why would you move? Why would you come here from California?" I'm like, "I don't live on the fucking beach. It's not like the movie that you see, like, I'm in the suburbs, there's smog, it's balls hot, like, it's not this glorious thing that you're expecting, you know?"
No, no, and it's getting worse and worse by the day.
So, you worked in recovery for a long time. Jacob's Ladder was great. You changed jobs. You were making great money,
Hmm.
but you were unhappy,
Hmm.
and now you've switched careers. So, that's something that I prophetize a lot on, like, if you're unhappy, you got to bust a move. And so why don't you take us through that a little bit, like a little bit, like I'm sure you experienced the um emotional fatigue, and then what else was going on, and how were you able to like make the switch?
Yeah, nothing against any treatment that's out there, but there's 17,000 treatment centers in the United States, and like our
Mm,
insurance companies, they want to see treatment look a very specific way. So like pretty much anybody, and not saying that's who I work for, but pretty much anybody with some money can try to open a treatment center and get people in and bill insurance and stuff.
Mhm.
And like, I started making, pretty good money. Started seeing that, and just like I started working in the like I help with referrals. Like that's what I did. And I not only did, and I learned a lot. Like there's all these crazy movies, Body Brokers, you should watch that one. This was prior to my time in the field, where people's parents would call a hotline. The hotline would broker their insurance off to a treatment center in Florida or California or wherever, the highest bidder. They'd send them there. They'd build the shit out of their insurance. The treatment center would make hundreds of grand off one person. They'd send them out for a weekend to get them drunk or high. And then they go to their friend's rehab down the street for another 90 days. They just kind of ran around, and it was like this big insurance fraud thing. So insurance regulations really tightened up. Um, it's hard for treatment centers to make money. You have to follow tons of guidelines and restrictions. Treatment has to look a very certain way in order for a treatment center to stay open, to pay therapists, doctors, nurse practitioners. I mean, there's a lot of staff. It's exhausting work. Everybody needs to make money, and it's really, I feel like it's pretty difficult to do that unless you're like an out of network different type of program. Like Jacob's Ladder is a very different program because it was designed outside of the box, and it's one of the best treatment centers in the country. But I started working for kind of, I don't want to say cookie cutter, but the insurance based treatment centers, and just filling beds, filling beds, filling beds, and I helped a lot of people. Run into them from time to time. Like we're helping so many, 10, 15 people a day get into treatment. It got really tough. It got pretty exhausting. And then, I was on the business side too. So the place I was working for is trying to make money, and it's hard to do that. So it just became pretty stressful. So like I knew I needed to make a change. So I started thinking like what do I want to do? Like my wife and I built a house, and it was a really fun process. We made friends with the sales rep, and I was actually like watching my community continue to be built and developed. And it's kind of funny. Like I manifested this job. I was like, I want that job. And so like, there was just this one random day, instead of like my wife and I would go walks everywhere. And on this day, we're like, let's just walk up, to the model home. So we walked up the street through our neighborhood, and the sales rep was there, and she's like, they just increased our pay and they're hiring more reps in the future.
Mm.
And I'm like, can you put a word in for me? So I like applied for that job like last February, and it was they're like, how is somebody in addiction treatment, going to do this job? And it was a series of interviews. It was a really tough process to get that job, and I got offered that job and started working
Congrats.
there in November. So from February to November, I was like in that recruitment
damn.
process. Yeah.
Damn.
And
That's
there's like land development. I think they really like me, but it kind of timed out with the land, and when was the timing right for them? Because they do so much stuff with land development, making lots. They had to move a lot of earth. So I think they wanted me early, but they didn't tell me that. I just kind of had to wait, talk to them every month or two.
Yeah. Dude, I think you highlighted something kind of crazy about like the treatment facilities. I was an intake coordinator for a nonprofit for like 3.5 years. And so there's part of me that can like really sympathize with you. And I have a question for you. I wonder if you felt the same way. Part of the reason why I left is dude, at some point working in recovery, it just gets fucking exhausting because you're just dealing with madness the entire time. Right. Like, and especially if you're on the front end, like I was doing like intakes and shit, right? Like it's everybody's calling, their lives are in fucking shambles. You get there, they feed you the same bullshit fucking story. You pray that they get in, and then it's on to the next one, right? And then you see the winners, like you said, and that's the greatest part is when you see them years down the road. Like I still have people on Facebook that I got into treatment that are, 7 years sober now. Like, hey, fuck yeah. But dude, it wears and tears on you, dude. It really does. Or at least it did me, man. So was that kind of another part of it aside from just having to grind your dick off trying to fill beds?
Yeah, absolutely, man. You get somebody in there, you work their ass off, you talk to their family, and then they leave treatment 2 days later.
Yeah, dude. Oh my God, bro. Like literally sitting there like I'm on, because it was all Medi-Cal, dude, which is like our version of Medicaid. So I'm literally sitting there with state workers and all the time getting this guy out of jail to get into treatment. The moment he gets there, boom, he's got Suboxone. See you later, dude.
And how sick people are, man. They're just so twisted and so entitled. Like addiction is a disease of entitlement. Somehow it becomes that,
bro.
And it's hard to get through to people.
Well, isn't it so funny too, being on the other side? Because you're like, I've had these moments where people feed me this shit, and I'm like, is this how fucking stupid I was?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I thought people believed me, didn't they? And something that I always say is, I can't imagine working in recovery, because just being in recovery, I deal with enough of it. Like my friends that relapse all the time, or that, dude, hey, oh bro, no, I'm doing good, but like, my car broke down on the side of the road, and I'm just, I need $20 for the stuff that, and you're just like, God damn, dude. And, I don't, always want to help my friends, but it's like, it is exhausting, dude. Just being around people who, go out and relapse and use and lie and try to get you for money and stuff. Or you try to help them. We got a friend right now. Thank God, he just found out he was back in treatment. He was cut off from us, from everybody, because he went back to somebody that we told him not to go back to many times. And he blocked everybody because he was instructed to by a person, and haven't heard from him. And I was thinking about him. My friend texted me today. She said, yeah, he's over here at treatment. He's probably going to give you a call. And I was like, thank God, dude. I was missing that guy. I was worried about him. But it's just, it's constant, man. And so I can't imagine working in it and being subjected to it like triple time.
Yeah, I always was pretty deliberate with calling it working in the disease of addiction field, because like recovery is this awesome thing. Recovery is what we're doing right now. Recovery is like tears of joy. Recovery is like the light bulb. It can happen in treatment. Like recovery hopefully is part of treatment, but I'll in my mind, I tried to separate the two just because I didn't want to like taint, what I believed about recovery and what I believed that could happen for these phones that were just ringing off the hook. I'm sure you know, Cameron, about that.
Yeah. It just never fucking ends. Voicemail just keeps adding up, and the wait list just keeps on adding up, and it's just get them in. But that's awesome, man. So it sounds like you took a sales job, selling homes or land, real estate. What is it?
It's a developer with Heartland Homes. It's out of Pittsburgh. So
nice.
Just it's consultation. I talk with people, and like we do a lot of stuff in house. So it's like it's really just a relationship thing where I educate someone enough that it either makes sense to buy or it doesn't. So it's like I haven't sold yet, but I'm very excited about the opportunity. It's like could be a 3-4 hour appointment where it's like I'm going through buying power. Like I'm really educating people, like building a home tailored to their needs, really connecting with them, and they have the opportunity to do it. I mean, because I got to go through it personally and what it's done for our family and our home. It's like, God, I love it. It's such a happy thing. It's a scary thing, anxious thing. People, it's a big purchase, so understanding like the emotional intelligence side of it is like, this is a counseling type job too. So I think I'm going to do really well with it. Plus I'm a really hard worker, but it's just a different thing, and I'm new. I'm starting from the bottom. It's got me like my creative hustle
You got this, bro. I believe in you.
Well,
Thank you.
yeah, and I'm really happy for you too, because Joey and I are close, and I don't know, Joe, you're probably telling me for 3 years, like,
Yeah.
man, I'm kind of like, I don't like it. And the hard thing is, you probably don't want to say it. Well, you were making really great money,
Mhm.
and so it's hard for anyone to be like, it's like the famous person complaining that their life is hard. It's like,
Mhm.
well, I make fucking great money, but God, I hate it here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that it's such an important point to me that, like, it doesn't matter the making the money, or if, like, oh, she's a supermodel. Yeah, but
Yeah.
she fucking sucks. You're unhappy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, if you're unhappy, it's not worth it. And you
Absolutely.
gotta and you gotta do something to make the move, make the change, because no one's coming to save you, right?
It's such a great point. I've had a couple things like that. I've had 3 or 4 of those in my recovery that, with 13 years clean, like looking back on, like, okay, I can't believe I stayed in that place that long. Like it was not a positive place for my growth as a person. It was just getting through. And like I will never let myself, this is recorded, right? I'll never let
Yeah.
myself get to that point again for that long. Like you got to move on quick. Life's too short. And like God is like really making moves for us out there. It's like I'm not the one, like I'm like his personality, a C brain accountant. Like I got to see it all before I make the move. I'm very calculated. It's sometimes hard for me to just trust, but when I get to the point like where I finally let go, it always works out.
Dude, I think there's also something with us, like being in recovery, or at least maybe me. I get stuck in that complacency, right? Because it's familiar. Kind of like when I was using, right? Like I had my regimen, right? Like it was leave house, start drinking at 5:30, shut blinds, sit there as a recluse, don't talk to anybody, drink all day, lie, make up lies, figure out my plan, wake up, do it again. You know what I mean? So like when you're
There's
stuck,
comfort in that
comfort in that. I knew
routine.
what was coming, right? And it's the same thing in the real world, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
Henry, with relationships, right? Hey, yeah, she's super hot, but I know she's crazy and not good for me. But you know what? At least I know what I'm getting there. She's hot and she's crazy. And then like same thing with the job. Like I fucking hate this job, but I'm making a bunch of money, and you can put up with it for so long
Yeah.
until we get to a point. And I think, thank God for recovery, because dude, at least we now have the mental fucking foresight to go, hey, hang on, dude, this is actually the reason why I'm feeling a little off kilter here, and something needs to change. Because a lot of people won't do that, dude. They
Yeah.
won't. They'll just sit and suffer forever until they're 65 and be like, well, I worked here for 40 years and they gave me a fucking Burger King sticker for my fucking anniversary. See you later.
Yeah. Or like, or they use and just completely fucking blow up their life
That
and
too.
annihilate everything that they have.
That too, dude. That too.
Well, and also, I don't think that's a recovery thing at all. I think that's completely a human thing. It's like there's comfort in, the evil that and change is scary. And, I was going to say
Mhm.
it to you earlier, Joe. You're like, this is new and this is different for me. But, like, growth doesn't come from being comfortable, right?
So true.
It's these uncomfortable moments. And I was telling Kristen about today, like, I have a really big job. It's my job. It's, one of the biggest ones probably I've ever done. And there was a couple things, like the devil Gipper's up here, and he's like, bro, you can't do this. You don't even know how to do this. You probably can't. You'll never figure this out, and you're not going to do it. Like, I ran into this issue that I wasn't expecting, and my brain was like, you can't do this. We're dead. We're dead in the water.
Mhm.
You're going to die. You're never going to make it. And I'm like, no, no, no. Okay, chill
Mhm.
out. We can do this. And like, I start collecting this evidence on myself. I was just telling Kristen, like, I had this problem, and I was scared, and I didn't think I could do it. And then I was like, but you can do it. And then when I
Mhm.
did it, I'm like, hey, bro, did you see how you did that? Like, that was cool. Like, you can do it. And it's just like fighting that anxiety in my head of like, you can't do this, and just proving to myself that I can, and collecting evidence from myself.
Yeah.
Because I can get in there and like, bro, you can't do this, and
It
it's
can be
terrible.
paralyzing.
It
Oh,
is.
fuck yeah, dude. Dude, sorry. Congratulations on that. That's a
Mhm.
big win, dude, for you. And and for everybody. Like that's a great thank you for sharing that. That's awesome, dude. That's fucking awesome. That motivates me like more than you know. That fires me the fuck up. I'm fired up now, dude. I was tired. My eye is done twitching, but I'm fired up now.
Hey man, congrats. That's great.
But it's like pushing through the uncomfortable part, because deep down, I know I can do it, or I wouldn't have taken it on.
Mhm.
But like it's those thoughts of, like inadequacy or like, but it's just, and like to me, you talked about actions leading you into better thinking. Like I can physically do it. So when I just physically do it, then my brain comes around and goes, "Oh yeah, I guess you could do that. Sorry, I told you you were a worthless piece of shit and you never figured it
Mhm.
out."
You're gonna be nothing, see?
Yeah. Sometimes you just need to sleep on it too. Like, man, I can't figure it out today.
Yeah,
Got to shut it down because I can get super obsessive.
or
I'm sure
like,
you guys can too.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
walk away, go get
Yeah.
lunch or something. Because
Right.
like the first problem that I was talking about, I had this like blinders, like boxed in view of it, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And then a little later, like after I ate or whatever, I was like, "Hey, buddy, you're a big tough guy with a fucking sawzall. Why don't you just open up the wall and put it in the fucking wall, you dipshit? You know how to do drywall. Take the drywall off, put it in the wall, put the drywall back." I was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
that's not actually that big of a deal. I was ready to
Right.
walk away from the job over this."
Yeah. Hey, thing we preach in the program, right? Pause when agitated, right?
Yeah,
And that can be in multiple forms, right? Like you going and eating and thinking about it, like you said, taking a nap, giving
Mhm.
it a rest. Like that's a huge thing, dude. A huge thing.
That's the secret sauce too, is just
Pausing.
not taking things so freaking serious and like getting some food, getting some sleep, good food, healthy food, like makes you think clear, just
Yep.
fucking
Exercise.
relaxing a little bit, That's like,
Hell yeah.
yeah. Little self care, whatever that looks like.
mhm.
We are jamming here.
So, my wife brought up an interesting point. We're all three married to normies.
Mm.
And I've been sitting here looking at this point. We're all dads, and you're a new dad. And I've been trying to figure out how to formulate that into a question. So, how has becoming a dad been for you? I know it's stressful. I know it's difficult, but I know you absolutely love it. So what's that been like for you?
Oh man. Well, we can get into relationships with our dads and how they were too, but
Yeah,
dude, I'm just there for him. I'm into what he's into. I'm communicating with him, and my relationship with him is very different than his relationship with his mom, too. Like when I'm alone with him, like he's so smart. I just want to spend that time with him. I love it, man. It is like it is the. It's hard to put into words, but it is like the purpose of my life now. It's like huge purpose of my life is to do it in a way that I believe is the right way. Being that dad.
Yeah.
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 And I think one of the things we just talked about last episode with like recovery is take the things that are good and leave the rest. Take the things you like and leave the rest. And I
Mhm.
think we can do the same thing. Or for me, I do the same thing like with my dad. Like there was some great stuff from my dad.
Yeah.
And it's the same actually with my mom too. Like
Mhm.
both parents, there's some stuff that I absolutely want to be exactly the same as them. And there's some stuff that they did that wasn't my favorite that I'm gonna
Yeah.
try not to do, try not to pass on.
Yeah.
And
And
it's funny. Go ahead, sorry.
the older I become, the more I notice that I'm like them too.
Yeah, I know that's what I was just gonna say, like the man, like the environmental influence of like looking back on my growing up with them and how they handled situations. Like if I'm not like taking care of myself, that's my default
Mhm.
mode. And I kind of feel powerless over it. I'm working to not be that way, but it takes work to not be that way because it's like it's my
Yeah.
default switch back years and years of witnessing in the developmental years. I went to grad school for counseling a little bit too, so I learned a lot about the growing child and the developing brain and the environment that they're in and the the courage that they have to live life based off of how their parents treat them. So I was in an environment where it's like, man, I want to give my kid a little bit different, but there were some really good things, like you were saying, Henry.
Yeah, looking back on my early relationships too, before I ever got into recovery, I was not modeled a very good way of how to treat women, and that is how I treated women before I knew better and did better.
Mm-hmm.
And when looking back, it's like really easy to see, but I didn't see it at that time. But like you talked about, that's what, and this is no excuse, and I'm not making an excuse, but that's what was modeled to me. I didn't really know anything else. I didn't really have any other frame of reference. Um, and again, no excuse at all. But that's what I grew up seeing, and it was just the normal to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get a little older, Nick Hine. I love we had him on here and he was talking about his parents and he was like, you grow up and you're kind of like, that's not such a cool way to talk to somebody or something like that.
Yeah, dude. And I think the cool thing for me, at least on the dad thing, is that you get the freedom to choose, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get the freedom to choose, like you said, and like you get to pick and choose what you get to take. And the great news is that with our sustained sobriety and the skills that we've gained on having some reflection skills, shall I say, we're able to see, like you said, like, hey, that's just me just going default mode. Let me correct that really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it doesn't have to be like, we don't always have to be in default mode.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's great, man. I think whether you're breaking a generational curse of addiction, which runs a long line in my family, like my kids haven't seen me fucked up before, and it's my life's mission that they don't.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so like there's my goal. And like, yours could be, hey, whatever it is, or hey, Henry has his goals. And that's the great thing about parenting, man. I'm glad you're having a great experience. It is rough sometimes. Wait till you have two, brother. Once you have two, it's fucking all over with, dude. You have no time. There's nothing going on. It's just jamming 24/7.
Chaos. Yeah.
The other thing though I was gonna say is that okay, it's our default and we can accidentally slip into these behaviors that we don't like or that we don't want to model. But I think one of the most you could almost boil a lot of recovery down to it is accountability. So with these skills we've been given, we have the capability to go, hey, daddy was a little upset and I wish I didn't talk to you that way. And I'm sorry. That is not an appropriate way to talk to you. And I'll do better. And I love you. And I hope you can forgive me. And they go, of course, daddy, no, whatever. But being able to call it out and take accountability for it, because I feel like our parents and probably any parents in our generation, because it wasn't even a thing, never really were like, hey, my bad. They were like, shut the fuck up and go get me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was just like, let's just move on.
Yeah,
like, we're good. Everything's
sweep
good.
it under the rug.
You want to go get McDonald's? Yeah,
that
go get McDonald's.
Dude, and how beautiful is that though, Hen? Because you know what? You get to sit back and ready, and then what is that model for them? That model is that you can communicate when you mess up in a proper way and apologize and then vow to be better. And then you get to model that, oh, hey, look, dad did kind of yell at me that one time, but he hasn't yelled at me ever since, and it shows that you can change, and you know what I mean? You're effectively communicating. And I think that's fucking beautiful, dude. I think it's fucking beautiful. That gets me fired up again.
Yeah.
That's a few times, Hen. I'm fired up twice.
It's like dad has feelings. Dad had a bad day. Like giving them perspective of like why you were the way that you were.
Yeah.
And then okay, it's not because of me. Like dad's not mad at me. Like it's like
give them some context.
Yeah.
Because I was way older when I was like realized, they're just people trying to figure it out. Like Jeremy Miller was on here. He was like, it's your parents' first time living this life too.
Yeah.
And then when I got 28 or 30, I was like, oh, I don't know fucking anything. And I thought they knew everything.
Yeah, they just did the best they could, man. Like, I don't think any human's old. Like, it's just life's pretty quick. And, you got one shot at it. So,
doing the best you can with what you got.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, we married normies.
Yeah.
How did that all happen? How did that happen to you?
It was God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. Again, it's like one of the moments where, like, so I met my wife in Providence. I met two of her friends at a personal development conference that I went to. right? They owned a yoga studio. It was when I was working at Jacob's Ladder, so it was like all the stuff I was into.
Yeah.
I got sick as fuck, like so sick before I went on that trip, like that I packed my bags the night before and said, I'm gonna wait till the morning because I had paid for this conference, like to see if I'm gonna go to this. And I drove to the Pittsburgh airport and I said, I'm gonna get my bags out of the car and see if I feel good enough to get on that plane. So I got on that plane and went to that conference. I met her two best friends there. I went and visited them in the summertime, and it was like a group of 5 or 6 of us hanging out. So the last night there, like I personally like wasn't like trying to go on a date with her or anything. Like group of 5 or 6 of us, like all the friends. I was there for 5 or 6 days. It was actually the day of Jordan Luzier's graduation. Henry, I went up to Providence, and it was just me and her. Somebody got caught at work. Somebody had to babysit their cousin, and it was just me and her. She was like, "You still want to go out to eat?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, let's go." And like we were eating dinner, and I had this moment where I was like, "Okay, God, what's going on?" And I'm about to go back to West Virginia tomorrow.
You manifested a big booty Latina, papi.
Sure did. And we did long distance for a year, and then she moved down here, and then we got married and had a kid.
Hell yeah, dude.
Crazy.
I was hoping the story was like I was on the beach fucking slinging the pigskin like a fucking absolute savage. She came running over out of the ocean, and
that story is actually way cooler though. That's actually a pretty
it is.
like I just met my wife online,
Same here, dude.
The
Same
way
here.
we do it these days.
Yeah.
But for recovery language, normies, a healthy person that doesn't cope the same ways that we used to cope, that are just okay most of the time. It's like
Isn't it
really
weird?
positive to be around. Yeah.
It is odd.
And we're super special to them, like that we don't act like idiot, 35, 40-year-olds that are going out fucking drinking, playing golf. Like I listen to what happens with my coworkers, their husbands and stuff, and they're just goofballs, Like we're not goofballs. Like we're focused, driven, like it's cool.
Kristen has said that. She's like, besides just like being in recovery, if you went to the bar all day Sunday to watch football like some of my friends do, I would hate you. If you went to the bar like 5 nights a week and were never here, you're out drinking beers, that would be so annoying to me.
It's ugly. It is annoying, like how a lot of people live.
Yeah, dude. And actually it's super crazy too. Like I think Ash actually finally told me, like, well, she's told me before, but she told me recently, like, just how grateful she was to have a husband who actually listened and like would have conversations with her. Right. And then like she talks with her friends, and like her friends are having marriage issues, and the dude is completely like, checked out, like doesn't know how to hold a conversation, has no accountability, fucking doesn't see his part in anything. They're about to get divorced with a 2-year-old kid. And I'm just like, oh, so everybody's not like this. Like, you know what I mean? And I think that comes back to like what I was saying on one of my solo episodes. Like sometimes I forget that I wasn't like that either. You know what I mean? And it all just came with this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like our fights aren't like fights. It's like, I understand why you feel that way. But you made me feel this way. And like, she's like, my friends would kill to have our fights.
Yeah, dude. It's like a fucking constructive conversation with maybe a slight elevated tone.
Yeah.
It's like growth, it's a fight with growth. It's like, it's resolution.
Blessings. Yeah. Blessings.
Yeah. And like going back to the, like people go to the bar thing, people are free to live their life however they want. I probably, if I could, I would, but the thing to me is that just almost never comes with no problems, whether you lost your keys or broke your phone or lost your phone or you fought with your wife about something that you can't remember in the morning, or you know what I mean, drinking and driving, stupid shit that comes along with it is the part that like the unmanageability, like, and for me, in my previous relationships, me and my girlfriends fought all the fucking time about nothing, about absolutely nothing, because I accidentally looked over here or, whatever stupid shit. And those dumb fights, like Kristen and I fight about real things, like real life issues that we argue about, not elevated screaming, cussing because like I fucking threw a banana at her and like checked out a girl. So you know what I mean? Like stupid ass shit.
Yeah. And it's just the growth, man. I wouldn't have it any other way, man. Like, you know, and it works out with my wife because my wife like doesn't drink. She doesn't physically like the way alcohol makes her feel. And so it's like this perfect marriage. I've been blessed in that regard. Does your wife drink?
Every once in a while, but no,
Okay.
not really.
Not
Like if
crazy.
we go out to something social, like out to a nice dinner, she'll get some wine. Like, but
Yeah.
no, it's not
Not a problem. Yeah.
it's actually cool to observe. You know, it's
Dude,
cool to watch somebody have a healthy relationship
it's so
with
weird.
it. You
I don't
know,
understand it, dude.
It's so weird. I go, "Don't you, like, wanna drink if, like" I'm like, "You can if you want." And she's like, "No, it literally
yeah,
doesn't
it's
matter. I don't even
random.
think twice about it." And I'm like, I that's all I can think about, like, whenever I was, like, in active addiction and I had to, like, be around my family so I couldn't drink, I'm sitting there looking at the clock so I can get out of there and go get fucked up, you know?
Hmm.
And so I'm thinking, if she's with me and we're at dinner, all she can think about is having a glass of wine. She's like, "Literally, I don't care. It doesn't matter to
Yeah,
me."
like maybe I will, maybe I won't.
Dude,
Yeah.
it's the
So
craziest
crazy.
shit, Henry. I love you for that, dude. Because Ash, when she will have a drink, like she'll like buy like one of these like fucking little like, you know, Bud Light margaritas or some fucking random things, and like she'll literally take like 3 sips, and I'll be like, dude, are you gonna finish that fucking drink? And she's like, no, I don't really like it. I'm gonna pour it out. And like part of me on the inside's like, what do you mean you're gonna pour it out, dude? Like, finish that
I
fucking beverage now.
I see people get up in the movies and leave half a beer, and I'm like, "What the fuck are we doing here? What is this? Who just like?"
Someone call the cops, dude.
Yeah.
So crazy. All right, I have one last question before we get to our last two questions. I'm about to expose your West Virginia. So, Joey is Joe Bob. Everyone calls him Joe Bob. He
Joe Bob.
is our guy, Joe Bob. And come to find out one day, I don't know what happened, but I was like, "Oh yeah, it's like your middle name's Bob, your middle name's Robert." And he's just like, "No, dude." And so, like, why are you Joe Bob? Where does it come from?
You know, it's like one of those nicknames that I'm blessed to have it because it's just happened. Like my cousin worked for like the news station in Huntington. So like when I was in, you know, when I was in sports, like he was the one doing the night recap of all the high school football games. He's like, "There's Joe Bob, my cousin, like running wild," and
Did he start it?
it's just always been in my family. I don't know who's credited with it. It's just stuck with me. I'm from Wayne. Like I got cousins from Cincinnati. Like, and I grew up country. Like I grew up, my Cincinnati cousins would come in and I'd take them frog gigging. Like I am like as country as it gets, catfishing all night. Like didn't realize how country I was until I got out into the world. But like I was the country cousin. So there was just there's a lot of names in West Virginia. Sue Bob, you know, there's a lot of names in West Virginia
Yes.
like that.
Yeah.
So
Joe
it's just
Bob.
kind of my name. I don't know how I got it.
Dude, I
That's
love
the best.
dude. I wish my name was fucking Joe Bob, dude.
Cam Bob.
Cam Bob, dude. It doesn't have the same ring, dude. It doesn't have the same ring. Hen Bob kind of works. I like it.
I'm calling my son Enzo Joe. He's got a two
Enzo
name
Joe.
nickname.
Yeah, his son's name's Enzo. It's pretty rad. I
That's
love
a
that.
fucking sick name, dude. That's a
Thanks.
good
Mr.
name.
Ferrari himself.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's
All right, man. Well, we got to get you out of here. We got to get out of here. But we always end with the same two questions. And the first one goes a little bit like this: What is your favorite part about recovery?
You told me these questions yesterday, and I couldn't remember what they were. I remember the second one that you're going to ask, but I still haven't formulated an answer to that. My favorite thing about recovery.
we are
Smoke coming
marinating.
out of his ears.
Yeah.
I know you got something for us.
It
Man,
doesn't have to be
honestly,
anything profound.
it's a spiritual connection to a higher power.
Love it.
It's a presence from right and wrong that I feel all the time, that I ask for all the time. It's a compass, you know, it's inside of me and it's in the world. Like it's a spiritual world that we're living in. It's those moments where it's like the path opens or a door closes, or I know I'm not supposed to be doing something and something shows me that I shouldn't be doing what I'm trying to do. Or a door opens and like, okay, I'll walk through this door and then magic happens. So like that's my favorite thing about recovery. It's a path to walk that if you're your eyes and spiritual world is open, it is as clear as the lines on the road, you know?
Oh yeah.
That's
Right.
that's a fantastic answer. That might be my favorite one yet, Hen.
Cameron's 6 to midnight right now, dude. I'll tell you what.
Dude,
That was a good one though.
that was a good answer, dude. I like to look at the world through that same type of paradigm. I appreciate that answer. And since you're already prepared for this one, let's get right to it. What would you tell somebody who's struggling right now, Joe Bob?
You know, I think back of like how messed up I was, how confused I was. Like, and it's kind of cliche, like there's hope, but don't take what's going on in your head right now that it's going to continue to keep being that way. If if you do something about it, it can change, like 100%. Because you get like in the basic text, it talks about we're reduced to the animal level, like we're freaking animals, like getting into recovery, like fresh out of addiction, don't know which way's up or down. Like, this isn't permanent where you are right now. This doesn't have to be permanent.
Amen.
There's a way out, and it's not death.
I love that, dude. I love that.
Looking at 3 people right here who, if we can do it, you most certainly can.
Amen
sure.
to that, brother. Joe Bob slayed the fucking last 2 questions, dude. That's a way to finish the pod, man. Well, let me say thank you first and foremost for coming on here.
Thank you guys for
You're a
having me.
very lucid and transparent person. I appreciate that about you. I think you're going to be highly successful in your new endeavor, and I wish you all the best. And congrats on being a new father, marrying a normie, and everything, dude. You're a shining star out there, brother, and I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe. Same thing as him. I'm not gonna drag it out, but I love
Stroke
you.
him.
I love you, and I appreciate
Love
you.
you.
And actually, I will fucking stroke him. Okay.
Love you, bro.
I have always looked up to you. I think you were absolutely one of the people who I saw in the beginning and said something like, I want something like what that guy has. You always have a pretty great attitude. You have like this can do attitude. Honestly, reminds me, I mentioned to him a lot of our buddy Nick Hine, who just came on. It's kind of like, yeah, man, that's all right. We'll figure it out.
Yep.
I also think that, I talk nonstop on here about how working out is a huge part of my recovery. And I think a lot of that has to do with you as well. So I've always looked up to you and emulated you. And I appreciate you, man. You're a great friend. And I appreciate you coming on, but I appreciate you even more for being part of my week.
Love you, bro.
Love you too, man.
All right, Joe Bob. Have a good night, brother. You
Guys,
take care.
thank you.
Later.
Later,
See ya.
bro.
Joe Bob, dude.
Oh, man, Joe Bob.
Dude, I'm actually, like, I'm not shitting you. I'm super jealous that my name doesn't have the word Bob in it, dude. Like, could you imagine if I was like fucking Cam Bob or fucking some shit like that?
Well, when it's like your uncle that's not actually your uncle, you find out,
dude.
you're like, oh, that's just your friend. It was like, yeah, your middle name's Robert or whatever. And it's like, no. Like, what do you mean? And it's like, no, you just, no, it's just Joe Bob. I don't know. He doesn't even know where it came from.
Dude. Yeah, I had an Uncle Terry who I was convinced was an actual family member for the longest time. And no, he was just, he was just Uncle Terry. Yeah, he was just a friend. But yeah, what a great episode, man. Very calm, cool, and collected. You can tell that he has a lot of time under his belt by the way that he carries himself. That's like almost fucking double mine. You know what I mean? Like,
you don't see people with 5, 10 plus years of recovery that aren't like doing well, having a good time, figuring it out, kind of, very lucid, intelligent, very self-reflective and self-aware. It's refreshing.
It is refreshing, dude, and it's great to have conversations with people like that. I got a lot from that conversation, and I got a lot like what I mostly got from it was I need to calm the fuck down. I need to be more like Joe Bob, dude. He's just fucking like straight steel. I appreciate his demeanor.
Yeah, and when he said, I was gonna dig into it a little more, but when he said eat real food, good food, like Joey's all about like cooking whole foods like chicken, rice, broccoli, real eating healthy, and like he's really I think, it's always fun talking to people that I know very well. And then this is where that collage comment that I made last time comes in. As we're talking through it, I'm like, oh yeah, well I was really close with Joey, and Joey worked out a lot. Me and Joey used to work out a lot, and
Yep.
he put me on healthy eating, and he was on a coach, and he would. We'd work out, and then we'd go to his house and eat chicken and rice and shit, and like, oh yeah, this is where I got a lot of this shit from.
Yeah, dude, and it's so cool.
Standing on the shoulders of giants.
That's right, dude. Joe Bob's fucking massive shoulders, dude. Slinging the pigskin, dude. Well, this one kind of ran a little bit long, but it was worth it, man. And I'm glad that Joey came on. So let me give him the spiel really quick. Follow us on YouTube, please. Hit subscribe, Joe Bob. That means you too. We expect you to be in the next live. That'll be in about 2 weeks' time. We are doing a bunch of stuff over there. The lives have been tons of fun. If you listened to the last episode, you probably heard us cracking up about all sorts of shit.
It was a very good time.
So come and interact with us. We'll put your comment on. We'll talk about you. You'll be on the pod. That's an invite to you, Canadians. Come on, talk to us, eh? If you want to follow us on other social media platforms, you can hit us up on Instagram. We post there all the time as well. With that being said, Hen, do you have anything else?
Shout out Kai. Hope you're still doing well. And shout out Podbeats. Go download the Podbeats app as well.
Yeah, go do that, especially if you like working out. All right, man. Well, I will finish it like I always do. I love you, Hen, very much. I love you too, Joe Bob. He's down there looking at his phone.
I love you too, Cam. And remember, if you're feeling squirrely, go get some fucking sleep. And be yourself. Fuck what they think.
I wish my name was fucking Cam Bob, dude. Later, dude. Cam Bob out, dude.